You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast. Hello and welcome to the ReRACEables podcast, pre-show, episode 10. Your host Tom here with my dear friends Josh and Lizzy.
Hi.
And my wife Nicole. And we are here pre-show, a couple minutes out. We love to just squeeze in these first initial thoughts here. Does the target focus on Gary and D'Angelo immediately?
It feels like it, yeah. We know that Hung and Chi are trying to edge them out, and I think there are a couple other teams slowly getting that idea as well.
There was foreshadowing in the previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was playing, I don't know if I would try to get them out first. They're definitely the biggest athletes, but I don't know.
But how athletic of a season has this been? Not really.
Yeah, but you know who the biggest targets that I feel are? Will and James and Riley and Madison.
Yep.
And so I would target them.
But they're the alliance. Where does the alliance? What happens with the alliance?
All five is the alliance right now. All five of them were in the alliance.
But
The alliance is broken.
well, there's an alliance between three, right? So it's
Yes.
right now Hung and Chi, Will and James, and Riley and Madison that have agreed with the three of them that they're going to stick together. And if Gary and D'Angelo go, if Aparna and Ishwar go, so be it. You know, it's like that they are.
But that's taking the side of the three, right? If you're Aparna and Ishwar, there's no alliance.
You think there's the still five.
That's it. I would go right after Will and James, Riley and Madison. Done. They're the strongest competitors.
We do get the foreshadowing that Gary and
Yeah,
D'Angelo are the targets, that ultimately the U-turn, there is a double U-turn again on this leg.
So exciting.
Right.
Will Gary and D'Angelo avoid it? Will they get hit by it? How will it affect the race, this leg?
I think people are too hesitant to make power moves like that still. Unless they know for sure they will get the people out.
Mm-hmm.
U-turn, how does it play out, Josh?
I think it's going to play out that one of the big four, Gary, D'Angelo, Hung and Chi, Will and James, Riley and Madison, are going to get U-turn first, and then somebody else is going to come and see that Aparna and Ishwar are behind them, and then send the double U-turn. And so even though I think one of the big four are going to have to do a challenge twice, I think that Aparna and Ishwar are going to be the second to have to do it twice. And I think Aparna and Ishwar are going to go home.
Is the question who's going home?
Yeah, we can turn it to that. Let's go first and last. Josh gave us Ishwar and Aparna as his last place.
I like them, but I'm sorry.
I really like them too.
So who do you got for last place, Lizzy?
It might be them. They've been on Josh's theory of decline. I think they've been kind of.
But so Gary and D'Angelo.
That's true. But of those two teams, I think Aparna and Ishwar
Yeah.
are more
They've
likely
been back
to
of the
go home.
pack, yeah.
Says the person who thought Kaylin and Haley were going to be out for 3 episodes in a row, and then they weren't. So
But you got them. You nailed them down.
yeah, eventually.
Nikki, last place.
Hung and Chi. I think this is the week it happens. I hope it happens.
Incredible.
Get them out of here.
I had a hot take last week. It's not as hot this week, but I'm also going to go with Hung and Chi.
Wow.
I think that
Wow.
in order for them or somebody to get a U-turn on Gary and D'Angelo, you got to beat them to the U-turn.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if I see it happening. First place, I'm going Will and James. I think that they're the top team, and I think they prove it tonight. First place, Lizzy?
Yeah, I agree.
Third that.
I think Riley and Madison are going to be number one.
All right, folks. Another exciting episode. 1 hour this time. We'll be back. All right, welcome back. Here we are,
Oh my gosh.
ReRACEables
I'm so
podcast.
overwhelmed.
We just watched episode 10, and we are recalibrating the leaderboard. So, Ishwar and Aparna, our brother and sister couple, bit the dust, victims of the U-turn. A lot of big numbers coming off the board.
Wow.
So I was at 19, minus 5 is 14. Josh was at 23, minus 9 is 14.
Whoa, our first tie.
Lizzy was at 26,
no.
minus 8 is 18.
I'll take it.
And Nicole, big Big night for Nicole. Gets a 10 spot.
Minus 10.
She's down to 21. So we have a two-way tie at 14 between myself and Josh. Josh, your initial reactions here.
My reaction is that I thought I took the lead, but I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about my next out is Gary and D'Angelo. I feel really confident that that's going to happen.
So right now, I have my number 8, Hung and Chi, and then the top 3, Will and James, Riley Madison, Gary and D'Angelo. Josh has number 6, Gary and D'Angelo, 5, Hung and Chi, 2, Will James, 1, Riley Madison. Lizzy, 7, Gary and D'Angelo, 6, Hung and Chi, 4, Riley and Madison, 1, Will and James. And Nicole, 11, Hung and Chi, 7, Will and James, 2, Riley Madison, 1, Gary and D'Angelo.
It's getting so close.
It is. I was prepared for the worst. Gary and D'Angelo really struggling at the roadblock.
Yeah.
But they finally, D'Angelo finally put on his athlete pants and got it done. And
It had nothing to do with being an athlete.
I disagree. He is,
great.
in 3 words, a natural winner, and
Oh
winners
my
do not
God.
let themselves go out in 5th place. And so they charge on. But initial thoughts on the rankings, Lizzy?
On the rankings?
Yeah. Where we're at, where we stand.
Oh man, I was just trying to do some mental math to figure out a way where I could make a comeback, and I think having Gary and D'Angelo out in the next episode wouldn't do me as much good as I thought. What I need is for like Alana and Leo to come back, or like Kelly and Levon. Yeah. So as far as rankings go, I'm not happy in 3rd place, but sorry, Nicole, it's better than 4th.
Hey!
Nicole, you're still in 4th place. You have been for quite a while. You had Hung and Chi in the 11th spot.
You guys just watch. Next episode, Hung and Chi are dead.
And then it's all new. It's a whole new
then
game.
I'm gonna be making the big comeback, so.
There's still time.
It's true. If that happened, Nicole would
If that happened.
leapfrog out of 4th
Number
place,
10.
and she would go she would be in 3rd. Lizzy would be in 4th.
Still.
Yeah, but because number 8 you would be at like nothing.
Yeah, I would be.
6.
For the record, I'm just at this point. I'm proud. I have my top 3 are still in it.
That's huge.
Gary D'Angelo 1, Riley Madison 2, Will and James 3. Pretty proud of that. Missed on Hung and Chi. Sorry, shout out to them, but. It's exciting. This has been a really fun thing, and I'm glad it's kind of heating up here. I'm glad we have the tie here, sort of. But it's I've been leading. Hey, I've been leading for like 5 straight episodes. But but
you were in the lead in the beginning.
I know.
Josh is caught up. Lizzy is not far behind, and Nicole is lurking and just needs a Hung and Chi exit to lock
Don't
it
we
up.
all?
But we'll be back just after this to recap the episode. Stay with us. So one other quick note as far as the rankings and long term here. At the end of the season, we're going to have 2 different winners, right?
Yeah.
Whoever is the lowest number at the final 3, so after I guess the next episode, we'll have a winner for the lowest score of the remaining the last 3.
What do they win?
I'm telling you, we should have put money on this. I don't know why we didn't do that. We'll think of something.
We didn't do
Season 33. Or ReRACEables Season 11.
Oh.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And the second winner will be the person who has the highest...
No, the person who has the winning team
winning
as
team.
The
their
winning
number
team.
1.
Right. Or the highest of the winning team.
Yeah.
The winning team as their number 1.
Right, because right now, Nicole and I have Gary and D'Angelo 1. Josh has Riley and Madison. Lizzy has Will and James. If Hung and Chi win,
There's only one winner because none of us have Hung and Chi ranked number 1.
well, I thought that
It would
Josh
be
would
me.
win.
Yeah,
Because
it would
Josh
decide
has
them
them
the
number
lowest.
5.
Yeah.
Right.
Or we could just give it to Nicole because she has them 11.
We should do that anyway.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have 2 different winners.
It's great.
Maybe the losers will, or the winner will get to choose the meal for that Wednesday.
That's great.
And the drink of choice. maybe for the other winner. We'll try to work that out. Little winners dinner. How's
Winners
that?
dinner, yes.
How's that?
That's good.
All right.
That's good.
Great ideas on the fly here at Tribal Council Blog, ReRACEables podcast. We'll be back. Welcome back to the ReRACEables podcast. We are here. Last night we watched episode 10, getting down to the nitty gritty. Let's start with the drama at the U-turn, right? We have some major advantages and strategy points to the game, the U-turns, the speed bumps, the road, whatever, all those, the yield. We have the second double U-turn, and that's where the real drama happens in the episode. First off, do we think it's a good time to have the U-turn in a final five? Is that appropriate? And then how much strategy goes into this particular U-turn as a result?
Yes, I think it's a good idea to have it at this point in the game. There's 5 teams left. You're really trying to get rid of people who you don't want in the top 3, racing with you or whatever that means for you. So I think it's very well placed.
I think earlier in the race, U-turns aren't as exciting. Strategies really haven't been formed. Alliances are kind of there, not so much. It's kind of like the back of the pack kind of thing. However, now that we're down to the final 5, it's like whoever's going to get there first is going to use it, and they're going to use it. So how are they going to use it? Get there first and see what can happen.
And so Gary and D'Angelo seemingly beat Riley and Madison by seconds.
Yeah, they right behind them.
Right. They get there first, and Gary and D'Angelo decide to U-turn Ishwar and Aparna. Let's just hold it there and let's say, is that the right move by Gary and D'Angelo to do that?
Well, I think Gary and D'Angelo didn't know if anybody was there before them. And they knew that Aparna and Ishwar were behind them. That's it. They knew that there was a team behind them, and the only way to increase the lead was to U-turn them. And I think that that's why they did it. I mean, they said that it would be stupid to U-turn Riley and Madison, who's right behind them. I don't know, right? Like, if you're battling for first place, why wouldn't you knock off the second place team and secure first place? Because Aparna and Ishwar are no threat to you.
Not to do that?
What?
Aren't you always the one to say not to do that?
I am, but now that we're down to the final 5, I do think that we might have to rethink that phrasing.
Oh my gosh.
Lizzy, go ahead.
I also, if you're the first team, I would have not used it. That's it. I don't use it.
I just think it would have been dickish if you show up to the U-turn literally 5 seconds. If you are this close behind another team, say Tom and Nicole get to the U-turn and then they U-turn Josh and Lizzy. When we are 5 seconds behind you, you have to look those people in the eye and say, go turn around, go do this. And especially on this particular season, when everybody's supposedly like all friends, it's like, why would you do that to somebody else if it's not actually going to benefit you? As strong of a team as Riley,
if you're
and
going to play the game to be friends, then you're not worthy to be on it.
As strong of a team as Riley and Madison are, I don't think that would have been a smart move. And then you go watch how the roadblock went. Gary and D'Angelo were there for so long
because they're not a strong team.
Exactly,
they're really not a strong team.
So I think they did what was best for them, which is target the team that was weakest to them.
Here's a question.
Aparna and Ishwar haven't won a leg.
But there's also the option to not U-turn anybody.
Yeah, but with 5 teams left, is that really what you want to do?
I don't know. I think that not U-turning someone, for them in that situation, is better than U-turning someone.
So, Nicole, why do you think they U-turned somebody, and why do you think they U-turned Ishwar and Aparna?
Well, someone's got to be out. And they want to make sure it's someone that's not in their inner circle.
I agree.
And it seems like Ishwar and Aparna, even though they're in the mine 5, I don't really ever feel like they were a part of it.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, I just feel like they seemed to be the weakest team. They haven't won any legs.
You can't do that.
Why not? That's exactly what that reasoning is.
Yeah, so you're just gonna anybody who's in the middle of the pack, you're just gonna U-turn
With
them.
5 teams
Why
left,
would you
there's
do
no
that?
middle
Why would you
anymore.
do that?
But
Stupid.
that's been the strategy, right? The blondes got U-turned twice, not yielded twice. And
Because you were in the back of the pack.
I guess they kind of saw them as the back of the pack anyway, right?
Exactly.
And they also had no idea where they were because they went to different U-turns. There's really no way of telling. They didn't have eyes on them.
I would not have used the U-turn if I was Gary and D'Angelo.
Lizzy?
Because here's where it also would get interesting. Then you have the other people battling it out. You know, you have like 4th and 5th place who are now U-turning each other because they want to stay in the race. Have everybody else get mad at each other. You just take the lead and run for first place.
So what do you think then? Do you think Riley and Madison wouldn't have U-turned Ishwar Aparna? Or do you think
But listen, if you're Gary and D'Angelo, Riley and Madison are no threat. Because you're already in first place. What are they going to do? U-turn you? No. Who cares?
we'll get to that.
Have them U-turn someone else. Have them U-turn someone else and have those people deal with it and have them fight for 4th and 5th place. You're in first place. You take the lead. That's it.
Maybe. I don't know.
My theory still stands.
For
I
you.
think it does. It does. I think it does stand. But I guess my question really comes down to this. We came into the episode and we thought that Gary and D'Angelo were the targets of the other, well, I can't say the other 4, but at least the 3, Will and James, Hung and Chi, Riley and Madison.
Absolutely.
They get there within seconds, seemingly from what we could see, ahead of everyone else. So they block the idea of them getting U-turned.
That's what goes back to what I'm saying is that how can you look your friends in the eye and then do that to them? They're right there.
Right.
I think had Riley and Madison U-turned Gary and D'Angelo, then Gary and D'Angelo would have been out because it took them forever to do that roadblock. And if they had to go plant that garden as well, that would have been it. That would have been it for them. But I think because you were right there and so close. I think
somebody else. If Riley and Madison get there before Gary and D'Angelo, do you think that they would have U-turned Gary and D'Angelo?
No.
Would they have? No.
No.
Should they have? Yes.
No, they shouldn't have done anything.
Do you think they would have?
I think they would have. I think they
I
are
do
ready
too.
to cut the cord.
I think they see them as the biggest threat. And I think that I do.
Really?
Kidding me?
I think Will and James pose a bigger threat than Gary.
Gary and D'Angelo, I know that you've ranked them first place.
So
They're a weak team. They are not a strong
This
team.
is a mental game.
I get that, but
They're dumb. Both of them.
I gotta think that they're alphas. They're athletes. They're professional athletes. They see the other professional athletes as a bigger threat, and they probably think they can outrun the other teams. I really think that's what it comes down to.
They have a more striking presence.
Definitely.
And I think whether you're navigating a country, trying to get a cab, that makes a difference.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They stand out. They do. But I don't think I think that Riley and Madison would have U-turned Gary and D'Angelo if they beat them there. Should they have done that? I don't know.
But see, like even
Aparna is a better play.
knocking someone from 2nd place to 4th place.
I know.
I just don't see like creating that, like have the other people battle it out. It's not worth your time to wait and U-turn someone. It's not even worth it.
I don't know. I disagree. I think you got it. I think it's 5 people left. You have it. There's the opportunity. You're in first. Make the move.
No one can U-turn you. No one can U-turn you.
Not true. I'm glad you brought that up, but we'll get there in a second.
That's going to affect you. You're not going to have to go back and do the race. Right, but
you want to send a message. You want to say like, "Hey, we're here to play. Where there are no alliances left."
I don't care about the other teams. I don't care about the other teams.
If you don't care about the other teams, then you wouldn't U-turn anybody.
Exactly. That's what I just said. Is I wouldn't U-turn anyone.
Right. You've been saying a few different things.
If I was in 3rd or 4th or 5th place, I'd absolutely U-turn someone. You keep yourself in the game. In first place, there's no threat.
I feel like it's safe to say that we're not going to come to an agreement on this.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's interesting how it played out that the one team that we were led to believe would have been the target got there first, and then as a result weren't the target. Except that they were actually U-turned by Riley and Madison, which negated the other part of the U-turn. So the obvious question is, how is that allowed?
To just like tie up the rest of the U-turn.
Right. Like, why is Gary and D'Angelo eligible to be U-turned if they already are past it? Why is it not Riley and Madison's ability to only U-turn Hung and Chi or Ishwar? Well, they can't U-turn Ishwar and Porter. Hung and Chi or Will and James in that point. Why is that not the way it is?
That limits strategy. When they did what they did on the episode, they were thinking like 3 or 4 steps ahead to benefit them. And so if you made limitations like that, then there's less room for creativity with strategy. By just saying anything goes, then you can kind of do whatever you want and then take control of the game, which I feel like they tried to do.
So their move
I don't know
was,
if I think that's fair. I don't know if I agree with it, but that's, I think, what the reasoning is.
so you think their move was to just say, we won't negatively affect anyone, but we won't give anyone else power.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't want their friends to be U-turned.
They control the game then. They decide who, because they got there first, so they can decide what happens for the rest of the U-turn. Again, I don't know if that's how it should be, but that's
I wouldn't say Riley and Madison controlled the game. They were
not
just
the whole game,
saving.
but not the
They
whole
were
game, just this
saving the
U-turn.
leg from their friends.
That's it. The leg, not the whole game.
Yeah, but you know what's gonna happen? Next episode, they're gonna say there's 4 teams left, and so now I had to break the alliance. It's gonna happen, and you're gonna get screwed over. So why not get
Supposedly
screwed
the
over this
alliance is
episode?
already broken. So
Exactly.
Nicole, let's go to our resident drama expert here.
oh my gosh, yeah.
How did you feel the blocking of the double U-turn ability by Riley and Madison? How'd you feel about that?
Well, I would have loved to see another U-turn in you.
Same.
Oh,
I think it would have made it so much more exciting.
like a triple U-turn?
No. No.
Been used.
What Riley and Madison were able to do by putting
Oh.
they couldn't do that. So then they would have had to either ignore it or
pick one of the other teams that didn't get there yet.
Yeah, well, that makes it interesting too. Yeah. Because whoever you U-turn first is never gonna be in worst place. Right? So like if you could only U-turn, or if I guess you're saying if you had to U-turn somebody else.
right.
Whoever gets U-turn first doesn't matter.
Well, it could. If they're really bad at it, it could definitely matter.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger point is that there's more drama, there's more created with if Riley and Madison would have U-turned Will and James, let's say. Right? Because they were one of the 2 eligible teams that they could have done it to. I think we could agree that would have been more interesting than.
Yeah, it would have been.
Oh,
And
no.
it would have been more of a like shock to, they broke the alliance, the inner alliance.
Yeah. The 3 is, well, nothing at this point. Right?
I'm a specialist makes a good point.
Thank you.
So we did see a little bit of fireworks. Aparna kind of went after D'Angelo.
Loved it.
Knew it. I'm glad that she went after him.
Well, it is good. It's good to see some competitiveness. I mean, as much as we, I think, all enjoy the fact that these teams all really like each other, and through talking to them in the interviews, they've all said how like close they are and how much of a family they are and how much they're on text chats and whatever. And
Sing kumbaya.
right. But it's nice to actually see them throw down a little bit. I like the fire out of Aparna.
Loved it.
You know,
Me
I feel like
too.
could that have helped
Friction.
them at other points in the race? Maybe, I don't know, but it was nice to see.
That team, especially. Yeah, I agree. I said, especially while D'Angelo was under such pressure. They had been there for so long, and then they roll up, did the second detour. Right, like Ishwar just jumps right in, is already like right where D'Angelo was at after he's been there for 2 hours. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, that was a good chunk of the. That was probably the best part of the episode, honestly. But inevitably, D'Angelo is a pressure player, a natural winner. He gets through it. They get to the pit stop sooner than Ishwar and Aparna, who we like. We like them, but they're ultimately eliminated. The U-turn definitely worked.
Sad day.
Yeah, he couldn't make up enough
For
time.
my rank,
So Ishwar and Aparna, were they there too long, too short, or just right in the race?
I think about just right. I think they were the next to be eliminated on my rankings, so therefore, perfect timing.
I think if they weren't in the Fab Five or the Mine Five, they probably would have gotten eliminated a leg or two earlier. But I think it's close enough that they were the first of the 5 to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it would have been hung in chi, but I'll take it.
I had Ishwar and Aparna 5th. I had them 5th exactly, and they finished 5th. And I think that was just right. I think they were a sleeper team. They clearly showed enough strength and their abilities to get this far, which is really not an easy thing to do. They rode the alliance to as far as they could, but they never kind of broke away, I felt like, and showed that they could win a leg. And it's not a coincidence that they didn't. Not that they couldn't have, but they just didn't. And I expected them to at least try to do that, but I think they finished just right where they were at 5th place. Which
I agree.
An interesting thought when you think about like Alana and Leo being like a mental team, right? Like they were really smart, probably not so physical. Halen and Kaylee, I'm not really sure what kind of team they were. But we look at
Kaylin and Haley.
Oh, Kaylin and Haley. Did I say Halen and Kaylee?
you sure did.
All right. Well, okay. And
Sorry,
then we
guys.
just look at Aparna and Ishwar. Right, like they're another mental team. I wonder if like this is the point where like you need to match that mental and physical capabilities. Because for me, next leg, by looking at the rate of decline, we see Gary and D'Angelo go because they have just been in the back of the pack, not being able to keep up. I mean, they're good television, but maybe this is where you see that the physical can't exist without the mental.
So that's where I think Will and James and Riley and Madison are the perfect combination of both mental
agree.
and physical strength to get through the rest of this race. I think Hung and Chi are incredibly smart, and I think they're very strategic in everything they do, but I don't know if their physical capabilities are going to be able to keep up with the youngins.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like you look at Hung and Chi being a smarts, not so physical. You look at Gary and D'Angelo being a physical, not so smart. But you look at Will and James and Riley and Madison, and they got the brains and the brawn.
Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah.
Let's go to the detour. Fisher Farm. With the fish, you had to pull the netting through and separate the fish out of the net until you had a certain amount. With the farm, you had to replicate a floating Cambodia garden. Both are really cool. Both give you that cultural sense of how people live in that remote part of Cambodia, which is always one of my favorite things to kind of see on the race. But as we always ask, which would you have chosen and why?
I think we talked about it when we watched the episode. I think this is one of the only detours that we disagreed on.
Yeah.
I would have chosen fish, and I think Josh would have chosen farm.
For me, it was an easy choice. You know what you have to do. You just replicate it. Done.
Also,
you just replicate
I think it's notable to say that Josh started a garden this summer, so he's a little biased towards gardening. Whereas I think I'm leaning towards the fish, which follows your logic usually. It's like there's really no strategy involved. It's like all you have to do is keep the thing taut, get all the fish out, and it does itself. The work does itself. And then when you're done, you measure everybody. Then you finish. And as you saw, the teams that did fish finished before the teams that did farm.
They did finish first. I will give you that. But I think that there is actually more unpredictability in the fish. In having to pull up that net, which you don't realize how long it actually is, and there might not be enough fish in there, right, to get the weight that you needed. What if that challenge led to like that? Go for it.
But there was enough fish.
There was. You're right.
That's what I was.
And that's why it was quicker. I agree. I mean, I hear you that it was quicker, but I think that the challenge for me is much more about reducing the rate of discrepancy.
And I think
And
there
for
would have
me,
been more
the-
discrepancy in the farm.
No.
Okay,
You
great.
copy
Well,
it.
the
They
only
show you
detour
an
that we don't
example
agree
and
on.
you copy it. Done. You copy it. There's no traveling. There's no fish
traveling in the
weighing.
fish.
There's no, I don't know how long this is going to be. It's literally you look at the garden and you make the garden and then you leave.
I
Done.
think we could
Done.
we could go in circles all night, but I'm gonna agree to disagree.
Nicole, which one?
Nicole said fish.
Fish, easier, quicker.
Yeah.
Less.
No strategy whatsoever. All you have to do is pull, keep it tight, and then you're done.
I think next time we watch, we need to watch the detours and then pause it and all state our opinions and then continue watching the episode.
Just so that we don't have the they finished first. Well, this is faster.
Exactly.
Leverage.
Yeah, we'll do. That's a good idea.
Is that because you know that
We're always adapting here on the ReRACEables podcast.
down to the finale we will be.
That's right. I think I would have wanted to do the farm because I think that I would feel that would be more something I would never do in my life ever again.
I agree.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I
I would
agree.
be interested in that, but I think that combined with not wanting to smell like fish if I didn't have to,
Mm.
that would have been big. But
You don't go on the race to smell good.
right, exactly. And I think I would have picked fish. I think it would have just been more robotic. Pull the damn net. We're here, weigh the fish. The farm, I don't know. Do I want to be bending? What if I fall in the water? It just seemed like, and it seemed like from what the edit was, that it seemed like the farm was harder. It was more taxing physically.
Yeah.
It took longer too.
Yeah, I did.
D'Angelo that's where they made up all the time to be able to get to the U-turn first from picking fish and Hung and Cheese driver taking them over to the farm, despite they didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we would have done the fish, I think.
Great.
Farm.
We would have done the fish.
Roadblock. Obviously a huge part of this leg of the race. The double U-turn came into effect and pushed Ishwar and Aparna all the way back, which gave the teams in the front a little more leniency to try to figure out how to make this tile that was ultimately a part of the slide puzzle. Who would have done it? And did it seem like it was harder than it really looked? I don't know. To me, the roadblock seemed pretty simple, but yet, again, I'm not there, but again, it looked like it was much harder for them. I don't understand.
I think it was hard, and I don't know how they had trouble with this. If you have watched any recent episode of The Amazing Race, you know roadblocks like this, you watch the person do it, you memorize what they do, and then you go do it. It doesn't matter what the thing is.
Take the time to do it.
Exactly.
Oh, look at that.
No 40-minute limit.
Thanks, Zoom.
And so I don't know why so many teams had an issue with this, because that's all it ever is.
Nicole.
But I think to answer your question, I think Josh would have been the stronger of the two of us to do this. I think I could have, but I think he would have been quicker at it. So
I think you would have been better at this.
I agree.
I think Nicole's more patient. I think she would have taken the time and went over and watched the person do it and not been impatient like I probably would have.
That's so interesting. I think I'm more patient of the two of us, but I know that Josh just has experience with like machinery and processes and building
Details,
with his hands
too.
and details. So it's
less about patience and more about
well, that's what's interesting is
steps,
that that's their decision maker factor
Mhm.
and it's not ours. Cool.
But again, I think that would be really hard in that moment. You rush up, you hurry, here we are. Shh, okay, it's this thing. What the hell? Like, I don't know if you can determine, it's easy for us, we're watching, right? It's easy for us to determine that this would require patience. But I think if we could come somehow to realize that this was probably better suited for you and that skill set, I mean, I think it would have went a long way, you know? I think that was the key, but I don't know if you would have been able to realize that in that moment.
I don't think you realize what the process is upon reading it. I think until you're in it.
I was gonna say that. I do think.
Just upon reading it, just knowing it's like making tiles with paint and whatever, I think I would be good.
Right, and plus you kind of can. I would imagine that you're not completely blind to what's around you, and you see these machines and this guy spinning this big thing, and you see the art at some level. I feel, and from that too, we would be able to make that decision. Josh, do you agree that Lizzy would have been better for that?
No, I agree
would've
that
been
I would have
Josh.
been better.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely think so. I'm also, I think, maybe better at puzzles.
Oh yeah, the second part of the whole thing, which is the sliding puzzle. Yes, he would have been better at that.
Yeah, that would have been hard, but it was only 9 pieces, it seemed.
I know, but I've tried to do those before and I get so frustrated.
I used to do them in my sleep.
Well, okay, great. Mr. Cube.
Let's move on. Final 4, right? A couple things left here. We have our final 4. What do you like most about this final 4?
I think I like that right now with the final 4, you have an even mix of everything. You have on as far as the brain and brawn spectrum, you have incredibly brainy, Hung and Chi, somewhere in the middle, Will and James, somewhere in the middle, Riley and Madison, and then on the complete other end, you have Gary and D'Angelo. So you have 4 teams that completely represent all of the sides of this game. I would say that Will and James are leaning more towards intellectual, and I would say that Riley and Madison lean more towards physically inclined. Not that they both don't have skills of each, but I think it's fascinating to have such a spread of talent in your final 4 teams, because I feel like that just accurately represents what the Amazing Race has become, and that no one skill set is going to get you that far.
Well said. Do we have the right final 4, Josh?
Yes, that's the short answer. The long answer, I can't see who else would have been in the final 4. That's it. I like to think of the challenges like now and to see who I could see there. And there's no way that we see Frank and Jerry doing a garden in Cambodia. Like you just don't see it. As much as I love them, like Cody and Nathan, like in the art museum when they had to like find the painting and then they just wouldn't last. And so when I think back of all the people eliminated, I say I don't see anybody else in the final 4. I look at the final 4 and I say maybe the casting this season wasn't that great. But I think we got for this season, I think we got the right final 4. Who else do you see in the final 4?
Right, maybe that's
I could see Aparna and Ishwar in the final 4. I could. I thought they were running with the pack. And they definitely would have been in the final 4 if they weren't U-turned and somebody else was.
correct.
Even if they were U-turned, if somebody else was, Aparna and Ishwar killed that task and they would still be in it.
Yeah. I said
last week they had 3rd place written all over them, right? Like they had that.
I agree.
They did.
I agree.
I think that as far as my like spectrum thing goes, as far as athletes go, Gary and D'Angelo, I think, are there by the skin of their teeth, and it very easily could have been Kelly and Levon with better luck. And I think as far as brains go, I think Alana and Leo could have been up in the final four as well. Instead of who's there right now? Hung and Chi. Yeah. I think Alana and Leo could have had the brains slot of my spectrum instead of Hung and Chi, because they would have been able to keep up. They're a little bit younger. Sorry, Hung and Chi, you've been doing great, but I think that going into the last couple of episodes, Alana and Leo would have been able to keep up. And Kelly and Levon too. They're also younger and faster than Gary and D'Angelo. So that's it. Lightly, I have this opinion. It's not a hard thing. It's also the what if game. So, it's not doing anything.
Because you look at like Alana and Leo's demise, and you like go all the way back to like them liking Kaylin and Haley,
Nice.
and giving them the truck clues, which is what made Will and James mad, which is then what got them U-turned, which is then what got like all of these like cascading factors.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at like Will and James, who we see as brilliant because every single time there's been a U-turn, they've used it.
Right. Or any any
time, yeah.
When I look at the final four, I think they got it right. Definitely for the top three, because I was going off of from my preseason rankings. There was 5 things that I thought you had to really consider: competitiveness, athletic ability, endurance, know-how, and then luck.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I would add to that, and maybe you take one out, or if I wanted, whatever, personality. I think that is something that I've definitely learned by really looking deep into this season, is that you need the right people with the right personalities. Hung and Chi clearly have a winning personality that people didn't dislike, right? They weren't too, they didn't have any one of those factors that really made them stand out. People wanted to work with them. They didn't want to target them, right? For whatever reason, Alana and Leo, they got targeted, or Gary and D'Angelo, maybe because of their athletic ability, they got targeted. So Hung and Chi are kind of like that under the radar / personality. And I think that the other teams too, Gary and D'Angelo, Will and James, Riley and Madison, I think they have the 3 best personalities. And I think that matters too. I think that they got along. They saw each other as competitors and some of those other factors, and their personalities kind of meshed well enough that it made sense for them to work together, and that was enough to propel them forward. But ultimately, I think the Final Four I think it's the right Final Four.
You said Hung and Chi flew under the radar. Would you say that Aparna and Ishwar are also those same characteristics that you described Hung and Chi?
Yes, I would.
So you would say that they would be interchangeable in the Final Four?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do. I thought that Ishwar and Aparna had 3rd place written all over them.
Yeah.
Right? They're kind of under the radar. They never got a 1st place. I know, Josh, you said it doesn't matter if you get a 1st place, but I think it kind of stood out like, oh, okay, yeah, they haven't gotten one. They're probably not going to get one. Right?
Now, would you say that Hung and Chi are a 3rd place team? Why or why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, because look, they started out amazingly strong. It was like, oh my gosh, how are they doing this?
Yeah.
But it was because Chi had, the right temperament or the right skill set or whatever to nail the music challenge way back when. And, whatever the factors were, they started out real strong, but they've kind of tapered off a little bit.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
And it's partly their fault because of their personality to help others, to, Hung being the mother out there. It's kind of gotten them in trouble. Why am I giving them clues type of thing? She kind of helped other people, but
it's interesting that they're the brains and they're flawed.
Yeah.
Helping people, not moving on so that you can tell other people what the clue was, like those types of things make me question, like Aparna and Ishwar never did that stuff.
Right.
Maybe
Will
they
and
are
James
more
would only do it if it has a bottom line that helps them.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's the difference that makes Will and James my favorite to win versus Hung and Chi are a 3rd place.
Well, Will and James, when they were doing the table settings, they made sure to tell someone, Riley and Madison or something. And when Riley and Madison was doing the baking, they made sure to tell Will and James that they're going to throw pies.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's just for whatever reason, ultimately those teams kind of connected more so. And maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe it's all just kind of luck too, that they just kind of got to that mine in what was it, in Colombia? What was it? Wherever they got to with the mine.
Cambodia. Wait, the
No,
mine?
but they formed the alliance for whatever reason. Those 5 teams got there, and in that moment, they decided.
I can't remember. Aren't you the one that takes notes?
Yeah, I don't. It was over a mega leg and more legs ago, whatever. But
All in all, though, I think it was a great episode.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, you got a good balance. You got the U-turn. You got the drama. You got some culture. It was good. It was really good.
Solid.
Cool place to be.
What So looking ahead, last thing, who's the next one out? Who doesn't make it to the final legs?
I hope that Gary and D'Angelo are the next ones out. And that is me being optimistic about that.
Right, but do you think they will be the next out?
Their personalities are too good.
See, I don't really even think so. I think Will and James and Riley and Madison and Hung and Chi are just as entertaining to watch.
I think Riley and Madison are kind of boring.
They're just competing.
Who are they? I don't know anything about them.
Yes, you do. They're Hawaii Beard Brothers.
And I read about that on CBS.com. You know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at personality, I know all about Will and James. I know all about Hung and Chi. I know all about Gary and D'Angelo. I really don't know much about Riley and Madison.
Don't you have them pegged first to win?
Being bearded.
What?
Their
What'd you say?
personality is being bearded. That's
That's it. That's it.
But people like that. I think people gravitate to like that, for lack of a better word, like that silliness. Like there's a silly, innocent, like they can do this, they do the beard bump, that whole thing. And like people want to work with them, right?
I also think people gravitate towards success, and they have been very successful in this race.
Are we all saying that Riley and Madison will not go out this episode?
They are in the top 3 for sure, yeah.
Are we all saying that Will and James are not going out this episode?
Correct.
All right, so all of the decisions are either Hung and Chi or Gary and D'Angelo.
Yep.
Wow.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I think it's going to be Hung and Chi. I think I know I had a hot take.
That's third place. Third place.
It goes without saying who I think.
Are you going to say that the final 3 teams are going to be all male teams?
Yeah, I said it preseason, and it's going to come true, I think. I think that ultimately, yes, you're right. Gary and D'Angelo have hung around. They've hung around, but they're
the team on the line.
But they're still there, and they're still there. And at the end of the day, like they got to the U-turn, and that's what mattered most.
Yeah.
Right. They got first.
There's no more yields. There's no more detours. There's no more non-elimination legs. So what you have is what you have going forward.
All right. So then you guys are in on Gary and D'Angelo next out. We're in on Hung and Chi next out. Will and James, Ryan Madison, definitely in the finals.
Wow.
We'll see.
I will put a sleeper out there that I could see Riley and Madison going home. I'm not going to say that they are, but I'm putting a sleeper out there. I wouldn't be surprised if they went home.
So you wouldn't be surprised if Hung and Chi went home. You wouldn't be surprised if Gary and D'Angelo went home. You wouldn't be surprised if Riley and Madison went home.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Just wanted to be clear that that's your stance.
With me then.
He's taking a stance to not take any stance.
That way he's mostly probably not going to be wrong.
I think that Gary and D'Angelo are going to go home. However, I think that the Gary and D'Angelo storyline with Will and James, like wanting to get them out, is strong enough to hold them into the final 3. Also, Gary and D'Angelo came in first place, right? Oh, no, they did not. They did not. They're
They
in the
did
back.
not.
They're in the back of the pack as always.
As we round out this episode 10, I just want to say thank you guys for coming on and sharing another great Wednesday night dinner and amazing race. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us here.
I was gonna say you're welcome.
I was going to
Rombolis.
little Stromboli, little drama corner.
Stromboli goes.
Stromboli, Little Joe.
All right. Thanks for watching. Please visit tribalcouncilblog.com. Check out the other episodes, power rankings update, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.